After years in the government, I didn't think my biggest battle would be with my own homeowners association, HOA. They shot my service dog, Buddy, claiming he lowered how much houses were worth, and they ruined my life. But when they found out who I really was and how much influence I had, their fancy world fell apart. Would getting justice for Buddy mean losing my job? Let me know where you're reading this from in the comments. I still remember moving into Sunny Estates. It was my dream house, with a cute garden where Buddy, my service dog, could play. He's a golden retriever who saved me many times after I came back from war. I wish I'd known that garden would become a war zone. The first week was calm. I worked from home, writing laws about housing that no one knew about. That's how I liked it, just a regular homeowner trying to live peacefully. Buddy helped me with my panic attacks, his calm presence making the bad memories stay away while I worked in the government without anyone noticing. The neighbors would wave, probably thinking I was just another person working from home. Then came the first warning. A pink note on my door, written so angrily it ripped through. It said, "Unapproved pet-breaking HOA rules." I laughed at first. They obviously didn't know about the laws protecting service animals. I took out my phone to take a picture when I heard a voice. "You must be the new person breaking our rules." The woman walking across my lawn had that look. Perfect hair, expensive workout clothes, and a face twisted with the kind of self-importance that comes from having a lot of money. "I'm Lisa Miller, HOA Rules Committee Chair," she said like she was royalty. She took out her phone, snapping pictures of my house, garden, and Buddy. "We'll see. This isn't over." Lisa walked away, her fancy shoes leaving marks in my wet lawn. That night I couldn't sleep. Buddy sensed I was worried, staying close. I'd fought against dangerous governments and debated laws, but Lisa's threat felt different, more personal. While Buddy slept, I looked up Sunny Estates HOA rules. Nothing about service animals. They hadn't even thought about it. The next morning, I found my garden fence spray-painted with "illegal" in red. My security camera showed Lisa telling someone to do it at 6 a.m. The paint was still wet, and Buddy's paw prints made red marks on the sidewalk. Exactly what they wanted. I was writing an email to the HOA board when another knock came. This time it was Susan White herself holding a big folder of complaints. She didn't even look at me, just stared at Buddy with disgust. "Mr. Johnson, we like to keep things a certain way here," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Maybe you'd be happier somewhere else." I felt Buddy lean against my leg, grounding me like he always did during my anxiety. Her smile disappeared for a second. Behind her, Lisa stopped filming. They didn't know it, but they just started a fight they couldn't win. As I closed the door, I heard them whispering. Buddy looked at me with those wise eyes, and I scratched his ears. "Don't worry, boy. They have no idea what's coming." I woke up to a camera clicking outside my window. There was Lisa Miller in her pink jogging outfit, taking pictures of my yard at 6:30 a.m. Buddy's ears went up, a low growl in his throat. This was the third time this week. "Gotta show all the dog poop ruining our property values," she yelled when she saw me. I hadn't even had my coffee yet. Buddy never left messes. His service dog training was perfect. I knew because I spent 2 years and $30,000 getting him trained after my last time overseas. Later that morning, I found printed papers in everyone's mailbox about dangerous animals, with a blurry photo of Buddy sleeping in my yard. Lisa had drawn red circles around his big teeth. It was actually just Buddy yawning. I kept one as proof, adding it to my growing file of HOA harassment. My security cameras caught her sending her teenage son, Billy, to put fake dog poop in my yard. The poor kid looked embarrassed, mouthing sorry to my camera. I didn't blame him. Lisa was the type of mom who'd punish him for saying no. The real trouble started during my evening walk with Buddy. We passed the community garden I'd helped plant. Lisa was there with Susan White, the HOA president, pointing at my tomato plants. "They're too tall," Lisa said, waving a ruler. "And who knows what germs that dog could spread to our vegetables?" I stopped, pulled out my phone, and played them the recording from our last HOA meeting, where they'd approved my garden plans. Lisa's face turned many shades of purple. "You're not allowed to record meetings!" she screamed. That night I smelled something strange while cooking. Buddy started barking at the window. I rushed outside to find my entire garden dying. Someone had poured strong weed killer on it. The tomato plants I'd grown for our local food bank were ruined. The cameras caught Lisa's husband, Mark, doing it, wearing a black hoodie like a cartoon villain. The next morning, Lisa had organized an emergency HOA meeting about property values. I watched as neighbors filed into her house, some uncomfortable, others excited for drama. Mrs. Green, my elderly neighbor who loved Buddy, caught my eye and shook her head slowly. She slipped a note into my mailbox later. "They're planning something big. Be careful." That's when I heard the first rock hit my window. I looked outside to see Billy Miller, tears in his eyes, his mother's hand forcing him to throw another. Other neighbors watched, recording on their phones, but no one stopped her. As the second rock broke my window, I grabbed my phone. Lisa didn't know, but tomorrow's HOA meeting would have a surprise guest. And this time, I wasn't coming as just a regular homeowner, but watching Buddy shake under my desk, scared by the noise, I wondered if I'd waited too long to show who I really was. I walked into the HOA meeting, my heart pounding as Buddy quietly led me to a chair. The room went silent, except for Lisa's loud whisper, "He's breaking the rules again by bringing that dog." Susan White stood at the front, her perfect gray hair and suit matching her stiff personality. She smiled that fake smile I'd seen too many times. "Before we start, we have an urgent issue. Unapproved pets and property values." I felt every eye turned to me and Buddy. A few neighbors looked away, shame on their faces. They knew what was coming, but were too scared to stand up to the HOA. I petted Buddy, getting strength from his calmness. Lisa Miller jumped up, waving papers. "I have proof of this dog peeing on my flowers. My kids can't even play in our yard because of their allergies." I had to hold back a laugh. Her kids were at the pool just yesterday, playing with the neighbor's dog without any problems. I stood slowly, pulling out Buddy's service animal papers and a copy of the Fair Housing Act. Buddy is a registered service animal and under federal law. The room exploded. Some residents shouted about their own property values, while others tried to defend me. Through the noise, I noticed Sam White, Susan's husband, filming everything with a smirk. I'd later learn why that smirk would cost him everything. "If I may," I said calmly, my voice cutting through the noise like it did on the house floor. "I've looked at our neighborhood's property records." I opened my laptop, connecting it to the projector. Actually, property values have increased by 12% since I moved in. The only decrease was after Lisa's unapproved pool installation cracked her neighbor's foundation. The room went silent. Lisa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I wasn't done. I also have satellite pictures showing that Susan's new fence is 3 feet onto public land, which is why I've been getting warnings about Buddy being off-leash in what is actually a public area. Susan's face went pale. "This meeting is over," she announced, gathering her papers. But the damage was done. Other residents started raising their hands, wanting to share their own stories of harassment and unfair treatment. That's when Lisa lost it. She marched up to Buddy, who sat perfectly still despite her anger. "This dog is dangerous! Look at how it's growling!" Buddy wasn't making a sound, and everyone could see it. He tried to attack my dog just yesterday. I pulled out my phone, playing a security camera clip. You mean when your unleashed dog charged at us while Buddy calmly guided me away? The video played clearly. Several neighbors gasped. Susan banged her gavel. This is unapproved recording. You can't. As the meeting fell apart, I noticed Sam slip out a side door, phone in hand. He was texting someone frantically. Buddy's ears perked up, sensing something I couldn't. If only I'd paid more attention, maybe I could have prevented what happened next. As Buddy and I walked home, I noticed several neighbors taking down their "No pets allowed" signs. Small victories, I thought. But something felt different, dangerous. Buddy's usually relaxed walk was tense, alert. He could sense what I was starting to realize. This wasn't just about a service dog anymore. This was about power, control, and what happens when someone finally stands up to bullies. I had no idea that tomorrow morning would change everything. I woke up early that Sunday to birds chirping. Buddy's nudge told me it was time for our morning routine. The sun was barely up, and the grass was wet, perfect for Buddy's training. As I stepped into my backyard, something felt off. The usual peace was broken by whispers coming from Lisa's yard. I tried to ignore it. We'd gotten used to her spying. Buddy stayed focused on his tasks, his golden fur shining in the light as he helped me balance. A daily reminder of why he was so much more than just a pet. I heard Lisa's back door slam. "Are you filming this, Sam?" Her voice carried over the fence. "We need proof of this problem." I took a deep breath, focusing on Buddy. We'd already filed 3 police reports about their harassment, and my lawyer was building a strong case. Buddy's ears suddenly perked up. He shifted, placing himself between me and the fence, something he only did when he sensed danger. I heard footsteps on leaves, moving along the property line. I turned slowly, keeping my voice steady. "Buddy is a trained service animal, Sam. He's not threatening anyone." Lisa's face appeared above the fence, her phone pointed at us. "We've warned you about this dangerous animal. Property values are dropping because of you." Her voice cracked with that same self-important anger I'd heard at every HOA meeting. I reached for my phone, ready to record whatever lies they were about to make. That's when I saw Sam emerge from behind his garage, holding something that made my blood run cold. The morning sun glinted off the metal of his gun. "Sam," I said calmly, raising my hands, "think carefully about what you're doing." Buddy stayed perfectly still, his training kicking in. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to do, keeping me safe, staying calm. Everything happened so fast after that. A neighbor's car backfired. Lisa screamed something about attacking. Sam's finger tightened on the trigger. I lunged for Buddy, but I was too slow. The shot echoed through the quiet morning like thunder. Buddy's yelp of pain shattered my world. My brave, gentle partner collapsed onto our grass, his golden fur staining red. "Self-defense!" Lisa shrieked, still filming. "We all saw it. The dog was aggressive." But her voice faltered as other neighbors came out, phones raised, capturing the truth. I held Buddy's head in my lap, my training keeping me clear-headed enough to apply pressure to his wound. His brown eyes looked up at me, full of trust, even now. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called 911. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, pressing the emergency contact I'd hoped I'd never need. "Sarah, it's John. Get the legal team now." I heard Lisa's sharp intake of breath as she finally recognized my voice. The same voice she'd heard on TV just last week during the Housing Committee hearing. Sam's gun clattered to the ground. But none of that mattered. Not Lisa's stammering excuses, not Sam's suddenly pale face, not even the approaching police sirens. All that mattered was Buddy's heartbeat under my hands, growing weaker. My phone buzzed. Sarah, my chief of staff, was calling again. I finally picked up, my voice barely a whisper. "They shot him, Sarah. They actually shot my dog." "Sir, you need to turn on the news," she said, her voice urgent. "Someone posted a video of the shooting online. It's everywhere." The emergency room doors burst open. Susan White stormed in, waving her phone. "You're him! You're actually him!" Her perfect makeup was smeared. "You're Congressman Stone." I stood up slowly. "Yes, Susan, I am. And you and your husband just shot a protected service animal on video." She stumbled backward. But you never said anything. You let us think you were just another homeowner." "I wanted to live quietly, Susan. To work on my housing reform bill without drawing attention. I chose your community because the listing promised peaceful living. Instead, you harassed a disabled veteran and his service dog for months." Karen burst through the doors, her face red with anger, but fear in her eyes. "This is a trick! He's lying!" But her voice cracked when she saw the news playing on the waiting room TV. My official congressional photo next to footage of the shooting. The young vet tech who'd taken Buddy back appeared, still in her bloody scrubs. I rushed to her, my heart in my throat. Susan and Karen fell silent, probably realizing how much trouble they were in. "He's stable," the vet tech said softly. "The bullet missed his vital organs, but he'll need surgery. Dr. Patterson wants to talk to you about it." Relief flooded through me, but anger quickly followed. I turned to Susan and Karen, who were now huddled together near the exit. "I've spent the last year working on housing reform legislation, but now I'm adding specific provisions about service animals and HOA oversight. Your actions just became Exhibit A in congressional hearings." Susan grabbed her phone, scrolling frantically through Zillow. Her gasp told me she'd seen the plummeting prices. "We can fix this," she pleaded. "We'll drop all the complaints, pay the vet bills." "It's too late," I said, pulling out a folder. "This is what justice looks like." Inside were copies of every harassing letter they'd sent, photos of my vandalized garden, and recordings of their discriminatory HOA meetings. "The FBI is already investigating. Service animal interference is a federal crime." The vet tech returned. "Sir, Dr. Patterson is ready for you." I gathered my things, watching Susan sink into a chair, her face in her hands. Karen was still frozen, staring at her phone as angry comments flooded the HOA's social media pages. As I walked through the doors to see Buddy, I heard Susan whisper, "What have we done?" My hand rested on the door handle. I looked back one last time. "You tried to destroy my life and hurt my dog because you thought I was powerless. Now you get to learn what real power looks like, the power of the law you tried so hard to ignore." The next few hours would change everything. But right now, all that mattered was Buddy. As I stepped through those doors, I couldn't help but wonder, would saving him cost me everything I'd worked for in Congress, or would this become the defining moment of my career? My phone buzzed again. Another text from my chief of staff. The story had made national headlines. Congressman service dog shot by HOA board member. Social media was exploding with anger. I clicked through Twitter, watching the security camera footage I'd released go viral. The clear audio of Lisa screaming about property values seconds before Sam fired the shot was damning. No amount of spin could save them now. A knock at my door made Buddy whimper from his bed. His bandaged side was a constant reminder of what they'd done. Through the peephole, I saw Susan White, wringing her hands, her usually perfect hair now messy. I opened the door just enough to hear her plea. "Congressman Stone, please. We can work something out. We didn't know who you were. Lisa was just trying to protect our community standards. Sam made a terrible mistake. What will it take to keep this quiet?" I felt a cold smile spread across my face. "Protect community standards? Let me show you something, Susan." I pulled out my tablet, opening the file my team had compiled. "Here's every HOA violation notice in Sunny Estates for the past 5 years. Notice anything strange about who received them?" Her face went pale as I scrolled through the data. Every single complaint about pets, yard maintenance, and community standards had been filed against minorities, disabled residents, or elderly homeowners on fixed incomes. The pattern was impossible to ignore. "This isn't just about Buddy anymore," I said quietly. "While you were busy harassing my service dog, my office was investigating HOA abuse across the country. Sunny Estates just became Exhibit A." A commotion down the street caught our attention. Lisa was now screaming at a reporter who dared to step onto her precious lawn. "You don't understand. Property values are everything. We can't have dogs running around. It attracts the wrong kind of people." The reporter's camera caught every word. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. My phone buzzed again. The housing reform bill I'd been quietly working on for months was suddenly gaining massive support. Colleagues who'd been on the fence were now calling to co-sponsor. Funny how a viral video of HOA abuse against a congressman's service dog could change political winds. Susan was still standing there, trembling. What do you want from us?" I handed her a thick envelope. "Here's your chance to do the right thing." Inside was my proposal for a complete overhaul of Sunny Estates governance, new board elections, third-party oversight, and mandatory civil rights training for all board members. "Sign it now, or I'll add your discrimination data to my congressional testimony next week." She snatched the envelope, but her hands shook so badly she could barely open it. Behind her, I saw Sam being led out of his house in handcuffs. The police had finally arrived to arrest him for animal cruelty and reckless discharge of a firearm. A new text lit up my phone. Photos from a resident showing years of HOA documents being shredded in Susan's garage last night. More evidence for the investigation. The house of cards was falling faster than they could cover their tracks. Susan's hand trembled as she signed the documents. "Please," she whispered. "My husband's on the city council. This will ruin us." I took the papers, checking each signature. "You should have thought of that before shooting a congressman's service dog. But don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to think about it during the federal investigation." As she hurried away, I saw Lisa being interviewed on live TV, trying to defend herself. "I had no idea he was in Congress. We just wanted to maintain our standards. Dogs reduce property values by 15%. I closed my door, sitting down heavily next to Buddy. My phone kept buzzing. Calls from major networks, other Congress members, disability rights organizations. Tomorrow I'd deal with it all. Tomorrow I'd start turning this nightmare into real change. But tonight, watching through my window as karma did its work, I held Buddy close and whispered, "We got them, Buddy. We finally got them." Outside, another news van pulled up, and I couldn't help but wonder how many other HOAs across America were about to face their own day of reckoning. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from other representatives and senators asking about Buddy. The story had touched people across the country. Last week, I caught Lisa trying to sneak into my backyard with her phone, probably looking for something else to complain about. But this time, I was ready. The security cameras I installed caught everything, including her attempt to plant fake evidence of dog waste. The police weren't as friendly to her this time. Susan White, our former HOA president, sent me a letter begging to meet. She wanted to explain everything and make it right. I read her letter twice before letting Buddy use it as a chew toy. Their fake apologies meant nothing. I had uncovered years of their dirty work. Other homeowners started coming forward with stories about how Susan and Lisa had targeted elderly residents, single parents, and minorities with made-up violations. The media dug deeper into our HOA's history. They found recordings of board meetings where Lisa bragged about forcing a young widow to sell her house because her crying baby was a nuisance. Susan had written emails about keeping certain people out of the neighborhood to protect our values. Their own words became their worst enemy. My team discovered that Sam, Susan's husband who shot Buddy, had been lying about his security credentials. He never had a license to carry a firearm as the HOA's security coordinator. The police were very interested in that detail. Buddy's physical therapy sessions became the highlight of our weeks. Other dog owners in the neighborhood would stop by with treats and support. Even Mrs. Green, who used to complain about everything, brought over homemade dog biscuits. The community was healing, but not everyone was happy about it. Lisa tried starting a counter-campaign on social media, claiming she was the real victim. She posted edited videos of Buddy barking, but my security footage showed her deliberately bothering him through the fence. Her followers dropped faster than the neighborhood's property values. Last night I watched Buddy play with the neighbor's kids for the first time since the shooting. He still limped, but his tail wagged like crazy. A reporter asked me if I would drop the charges if Susan and Lisa apologized. I looked at Buddy, remembered the blood on his fur, the terror in his eyes, and the nights of pain. Some things can't be fixed with just sorry. The old HOA board's office was empty now, their precious rule books collecting dust. The temporary resident council found documents showing how Susan and Lisa had been putting HOA fees into their personal accounts for years. They thought they were untouchable in their perfect little world. They never expected a congressman and his three-legged dog to bring it all down. Tomorrow, Buddy has another vet checkup. His recovery is slow, but he's teaching me something new every day about never giving up. As I sit on my porch watching the sunset, I see Lisa packing boxes into her car. Her house finally sold, at half her asking price. Sometimes things work out the way they should. But as I look at the certified letter on my desk from her lawyer, I wonder if this fight is really over, or if she has one last desperate plan